You might be looking at the crypto prices today and are thinking, wow, things are very boring today. But I honestly think XRP is up 3%, basically more than most of the entire top 100 because people are anticipating something. Now, that something can be described in pretty simple words, which is a positive result in the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. And the simplest way I can kind of extrapolate that is, as I've been reading Twitter, three things have become apparent. One, more and more people have started to join Ripple's side, meaning the community members, crypto YouTubers, all of a sudden are starting to say, hey, perhaps it's a smart idea to buy some XRP just before the lawsuit is finished, as it's been 2.5 years and the other 2 points are coming in hot, so it might be wise to go for XRP right now. Reason number two is all of a sudden guys like Mark Cuban are very heavily against the SEC. And I can kind of back that up by saying BlackRock and all these other parties are also starting to form together against the SEC. Now, specifically, Mark Cuban tried to, or at least talk with somebody who was trying to file a crypto token as well, trying to look up exactly how to get one out there. And it was really hard, he said. Now, we all know that's the case because right now, if you are a company in the US and you want to get into crypto, good luck with that because nobody's there to help you. You need to get a securities lawyer, and even that guy probably won't know because the rules are so vague. So again, reason number two, basically being that some big guys are joining the fight, like BlackRock, like Mark Cuban. And I'd say reason number three is because Ethereum partially got exposed, but that is together with the fact that Gary Gensler, Jay Clayton, and Hillman, all of those are getting more and more questions, getting more and more pressure, and more information is being found out about them, and just in general about the SEC's bad policy. To back that up a little bit, all the 3 points, you can see right here Mark Cuban stating at least a little bit more about a discussion which people have been having over on Twitter, that Jay Clayton was basically given an example of what a security is, and everybody was like, huh? What's that all about? So Andrew Sorkin tried to explain it a little bit better, but even then Mark Cuban comes in hot to state, well, Jay Clayton's still strange, I guess, for saying what he said. At the same time, please understand that even though there are now many more benefits to, I'd say, buying, even though I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not encouraging you to buy anything. All I'm doing is stating that I think XRP is becoming more and more appealing by the day, and I think that's also one of the main reasons why XRP keeps beating Bitcoin, but understand that if something bad happens in the lawsuit, price will probably go down. A lot of people are selling right now because they've just been waiting for too long and need money, so the price could go down because it just takes too long. Goes to trial, something like that, or people panic because it just something happens, prices can go down. You have to understand that. But I still think the general idea is, as things are looking right now, prices will continue to go up slowly as long as Bitcoin doesn't crash, and I think Bitcoin has bottomed. Since I think Bitcoin will be making an all-time high, let's say in about a year and a half from now, I do believe XRP is also on that same trajectory, but will only be, I guess, exploding more because of what could happen in this lawsuit. But again, keep caution, I'd say, because there's guys like Charles Gasparino who've also all of a sudden switched sides. He was very big at exposing the SEC and what crazy stuff they were doing. But all of a sudden, my latest New York Post column, SEC regulations on dangerous crypto are an uneven mess. Now, again, in the comments, he's always a little bit alpha, so to speak. And at the end of the day, I don't think he's doing the best job reporting on all this crypto stuff just quite yet. And Learzite had to say, "You were so predictable, Charles. You stopped reporting on the things that went on under Clayton, and then dismissed them as ridiculous the day you realized that there were real crimes going on. Suddenly, you said there was no evidence whatsoever. Everything was completely far-fetched. Suddenly, it was. With Gensler, you don't seem to have any jam at all." What I'd like to state about this one is, understand, guys, please do understand, I still believe this is a bigger play. I still believe there are many characters, little pawns in this game that just have either a destiny or are on a path that can still be changed if there's enough money, power, or influence involved. And so I wouldn't say trust all these players that are big in the space right now. Don't trust all these players that are speaking out loud or are important now, because they still might change sides. And I don't think John Deaton or one of these key players will, but understand that if enough is at stake, people will change their minds. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden, very, very close towards the end, we know in hindsight then, somebody all of a sudden takes their hands off this lawsuit or something like that. Wouldn't be too crazy. or if all of a sudden some crazy announcement regarding crypto is made just before a major decision was about to come out, or something crazy like that, because once more, I believe it's more of a game than they're making it out to be. However, before we move on, guys, if you've not pressed that like button yet, make sure you press that button right now. We're trying to get to 1,000 likes on every single video. I know it's not necessarily possible, but let's try. One other thing many people are forgetting is whatever's happening is Sam Bankman-Fried. So there's a guy on Twitter that usually is like a bluffer. He just quotes dumb stuff that's completely taken out of his ass, has no sources at all, really garbage account, so to be honest with you. But he said FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is allegedly ratting out everyone in the industry right now to U.S. authorities. Well, perhaps that's again why the U.S. SEC, this is again my own theory, based upon nothing but just thinking because of what I saw. Perhaps that's why the U.S. SEC went after CZ, because they know something from Sam Bankman-Fraud, I want to call him. You can see a little while ago he said, at some point I might have to say more about a particular sparring partner, so to speak, but you know, glass houses, so for now, all I'll say is, well played, you won. Which basically is a jab to CZ from Binance, and what happened a little bit ago, they went after CZ from Binance, or at least they're trying to. Now, at the same time, Binance is apparently going after Binance Nigeria Limited, the company that was being, I guess, taken down, sued, or whatever, all the way over in Nigeria for being some sort of scam, or at least something that's not controlled by the actual Binance. But to get back to the main points, because I was going to go on a tangent here for a little bit about Binance and about CZ, but at the end of the day, there's just too much we don't know. We don't know who's snitching. We don't know what's going on in the background, so let's skip it. What was more interesting was to go on about Charles Gasparino from Fox. Gensler's people, meanwhile, declined my request for comment, but the chairman was recently interviewed on CNBC and gave Prometheum an attaboy for coming to the SEC and seeking proper registration while agreeing not to trade crypto he believes violate the law. But there's nothing to ETH, right, Charles? Yeah. You know the motto already, right? Tom Emmer just posted it on Twitter again. #fire Gary Gensler. I think it's becoming more of a movement, I'd say, right? Because it just makes sense. Caitlin Long is in on it too. Look at who tweeted this, because it's getting pretty serious. And I really think if you look through this list here, you'll find another, I guess, couple of important people who are also talking about the exact situation of just getting rid of this Gary Gensler, getting rid of the way in which they are controlling crypto over in the U.S. because all the money is moving to China. And talking about that, I think a lot of countries are looking at the U.S. right now and thinking that's exactly not the way to do it, right? Whatever they're doing over in the U.S. is exactly the opposite way of how we should do it. Usually the U.S. has a very big exemplary role, but that could also change as they lose their world reserve currency status, or at least drift farther and further away from it. What I think is interesting is that over in China, for example, they looked so negative towards crypto for all this time, right? You guys hopefully remember that. But all of a sudden as well, this was like almost under the radar of sorts. A little while ago, the Bank of China issued $28 million in digital structured notes on the Ethereum blockchain. And again, we all thought that China hated crypto, not so fast. Time for a thread. And the situation there is that China really is a lot more into crypto than you might think. First of all, I think through their Hong Kong, I almost want to call it subsidiary. I know that's wrong, but I just want to say it that way, which is urging banks to start adapting crypto, et cetera, but also just as a general concept in China. I'd say for the people, they're not so happy, but as a country, they're doing quite a lot in this space, and especially for blockchain tech and the research into it. Once more, exchanges and founders and all that stuff, I'd say they're not in the best position over there, but man, it's voice crack city today, huh? That's crazy. All I wanted to say was in terms of actual building, China is still on top of it, guys. Don't get it twisted. Even though they might not be showing it to you in front. That's also what I've been saying before. Just because they're not showing it from the front doesn't mean they're not doing it from the back. Well, yeah, might sound kind of strange, but that's honestly the way I think about it. Same thing goes for Bank of America and all these different banks. A lot of them have actually gone way deeper into crypto than might meet the eye. And talking about the bank situation, we already talked about it earlier today. Things are in a really bad spot. It's so crazy. Things are collapsing as we speak. And a good example is whenever I see articles like this, I get reassured that indeed it's all about to collapse, to a certain degree at least. NatWest implements a policy requiring prior notice for cash withdrawals. In a move that has raised eyebrows and fueled skepticism, NatWest, one of the largest banks in the UK, has introduced a new policy mandating customers provide advance notice for cash withdrawals exceeding £2,000. Now, again, from a certain perspective, you might say, That's just because the bank doesn't have actual cash in there, right? It's just to make sure that you can't take all the money out of the bank so nobody else can withdraw. But no, take a look at this. Customers may also be subject to questioning and asked to provide documentation for the nature of their intended transaction, which once more is a very big no-no from my side, because I just want to take out my money if I want to take out my money. If I could put it in, I should be able to put it out. But that's, again, my thoughts about the situation, which is, again, why I'm so bullish on crypto, which is why I think things like XRP just can't go down indefinitely. In the US, they might not like it for the time being, but the way they're revolutionizing the payment space, I just think is going to take over in due course. It might take time, but I think it will. And also take a look at this. A little while ago, Stuart Arrow went on a little bit of a stroll. An investigation must be conducted to understand what or who influenced Hinman, why conflicts, or at the very least appearances of conflicts, were ignored, and why the SEC touted the speech knowing that it would create greater confusion. So to that, here's an article. Ripple CEO is optimistic the crypto firm will get ruling on the XRP lawsuit soon, slams the embarrassing SEC. Learzite had to say, "Hey Andrew Sorkin, Becky Quick, CNBC, and Squawk. Seriously, how long do you think you can ignore this? The general counsel and the CEO of Ripple are calling for an investigation against the former director of the SEC for possible corruption. And you haven't said a single word about it. Neither on TV nor on your website. You're making a complete and utter fool of yourself." I want to take that a step back and say, I understand they're not covering an allegation like that too broadly because it's just that, an allegation. But two things. One, the same thing can be said about Ripple and about XRP status, and about Coinbase's status, and about Binance, because they're all just allegations by the SEC based upon rules that nobody fully understands or knows. Because how exactly do you apply it to become a crypto exchange then? How exactly does it work? Well, Prometheum was able to do it, but how, right? It makes no sense the whole way they did it and the way they look at the crypto space. So then again, to get back to it, I think that anybody, and please bear with me here, I think anybody that looks into Jay Clayton, looks into Gary Gensler, looks into Bill Hinman, comes to the same conclusion that it's a little bit weird. The way they've gone about their business is not that logical in any way, shape, or form. You might be able to say, no, it's a career politician. Even then, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And maybe you think that most of the steps do. Sure, that's your own right to decide. But still, I think we'll be able to pinpoint a couple decisions that just don't make sense to anybody and can only smell of either fraud or deliberate confusion or something of that sort, just negative thoughts in nature, or I should say negative origin, something that doesn't make sense from any perspective. It's just evil or straight up ignorant, straight up stupid almost. It's really weird, but that's not being covered anywhere, which again doesn't really make a lot of sense from the perspective that they're covering the SEC's allegations, which are just that, allegations. So why not on the opposite side when people are calling them out so heavily? I guess the only thing you can say is because the SEC is a reputable source and Ripple's not. But that always makes me interested in why, again, they're liking these guys like Clayton so much, because can you really call that reputable? Can you really? Or can you guys call these guys at Prometheum really reputable? We can go on about that for a little while, but whenever it's something weird from Jay Clayton, whenever it's something weird from any of these guys, it just gets ignored. And that's the way they've been going about this for a good while now. Anyway, things might be coming to an end as BlackRock is coming in hot, and apparently the track record of the ETFs approved by the SEC from BlackRock is 575 to 1, which that's pretty good odds, right? BlackRock kind of basically owns the SEC now as of this point. Digital asset investor, I guess, has something else to say. I didn't even see this earlier. This is not a smoking gun. It's okay. The SEC is setting up a Chinese backdoor into crypto while trying to stop American companies such as Ripple, Coinbase, and other U.S. players. Red alert. And there's a little bit of a talk here. I'm guessing this is Prometheum again, which again had Chinese investors, and probably I'm going to have to investigate this a little bit deeper and get back on this tomorrow. Yeah, zooming in, it does indeed look again like Prometheum, which got some registrations that nobody seems to understand, and they got tokens, which again, nobody seems to fully understand how it worked or how all this stuff works for them. But I'd say I'm on the side of a land which says it's kind of like a front door. It's like they're kind of open about this all. DAI says the SEC is gearing up to help China issue crypto tokens. It's clear. I would say very clear. Again, through Prometheum or something of the sorts. Well, you can see that even though we can't prove any of that, the suspicion is getting more and more because, once more, their decisions and approvals are so, to us, out of the ordinary versus what anybody in the world almost would say or think. There's a couple people like John Reed Stark and ex-SEC members, two sides on ex-SEC members, but some of them are looking at it the way that Gary Gensler and Jay Clayton and whatever are. But I don't think any of them could ever say no. They were doing everything right. It all looks good. It all looks clean. Nothing confusing about it, because that just would be lying, I think. And the same thing applies here. I don't think many people can look at Prometheum and say, no, that's all very clear. That's all very logical, and they got it and others didn't because of this or that reason. And no, it makes complete sense the way that all this is going and the way they're hiding some stuff, which we're going to get into later, because honestly, the whole rabbit hole is so deep. By the way, Binance US doing really bad after the SEC came in. XRP doing really bad after the SEC came in a couple years ago, obviously. Another funny thing, the SEC is going so deep after Binance, even though nothing was ever really wrong. They never went FT or FTX, though, which is funny. A lot of news about FTX coming in hot. And you got to understand, from Gensler's side, there's really not that much he can lose from just alleging wrong things and just throwing up different lawsuits and, we lost one here, we lost one there. If you just can back it up properly with some very confusing evidence, which nobody understands, well, the worst thing that's going to happen is you make a little mistake. It costs you a little bit of money, which is not really your own money anyway. Right now, things are so freaking trending about Prometheum. DAI is finding so many different pieces and things. It's so crazy. Prometheum or Ethereum CEO Aaron Kaplan, notice he doesn't address Ethereum or their ICO disguised whales dirty laundry. It goes a little bit deeper than many might think. And I want to dive into it deeper as well. We might do that tomorrow because the situation is so scary and crazy. For that reason, I'm thinking maybe let's not, but we probably will, just because of how more difficult it makes the entire case. If China's involved in all this, that would make things so much more difficult. We can't prove anything, but I guess we can make allegations just like the SEC, and that's about it. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that like button. You don't have to. All you got to do, though, is put the notification button on, because what if something crazy happens today in the crypto news? I want to notify you guys as soon as possible, and the only way you'll know is if you're notified. So make sure you put that button on, and I'll see you guys again in another one.